Hey everyone, so if you're watching the replay, please skip ahead 2 minutes while I figure the tech stuff out. And if you're joining me live, then welcome. I'm really excited you're here. And I just need a minute to integrate the video on the live page. Sorry, it's taking me ages. The page is kind of slowing down. But we should be there in a second. And I'm super excited to talk about social media because it's one of my favorite subjects. And I actually really cannot believe that I initially hadn't planned a session on this. And so, yeah, what was I thinking? We clearly needed a social media session. And I'm really grateful for all the questions that came in. Okay, so we've got the video live on the page. Now let me just double check that it's working. Can I see myself? This is always the awkward bit. Okay, refresh. I am live. Okay. Am I here as well? Yes, I am. Fantastic. Yay! So you should be able to see me now. Awesome. Hey everyone, thank you so much for coming. I know this is mega spontaneously. Hi Elena, hi. I know this is super spontaneous, and I had a couple of questions on social media strategy from you guys joining the group, and they were really helpful, and so I thought I would make an extra session on this. If you guys can see and hear me fine, I would love a little hello in the chat box on the side. That would be amazing. I know there's a little bit of a delay, so I might not get that right now, but that's okay. Okay, so let me tell you what we're going to talk about today. As I said, it's all about social media strategy, and I will tell you a lot of really practical tips, and I will tell you kind of what my journey with social media is and what I have been enjoying doing. I have grown my social media following to more than 12,000 followers combined on the different platforms in the last 2 years. So that was really exciting. Exciting and scary. Some of it was really cool, some of it was hard, and I'm going to tell you more about that. I will say though, I think I'm not the most conventional, well, I don't have the most conventional approach when it comes to social media because I don't follow all of the conventional advice, and I will tell you more about that as we go along. But just to say that sometimes I'm not implementing everything I'm teaching, which is debatable. But that's really because my main priority is for social media to be authentic and fun and a way to really connect with people. So yeah, that's important to know, I think. So what we're going to talk about today, I first want to start by talking a little bit about what a good social media strategy is, and then I would like to invite you to think about that for yourself as well. Like, what are your social media goals for your business? And then we're going to talk about choosing the right platform. We're going to talk a little bit about, how you can engage with people in different ways on different platforms. We're going to speak about working with hashtags, which is really important because I see a lot of people really not making the most of hashtags and kind of wasting their time with them. I want to speak a little bit on automation and saving time and being consistent and branding your social media channels. And then I want to talk about engaging with groups on Facebook, which is also really important. And so, yeah, it's been something that's been really essential in my business, but it's also been something that I wasted a lot of time on. So let's talk about that as well. Cool. So to make a start, I want to see, what is coming up for everyone on the question, what is a good social media strategy in your business? And I can tell you what mine is. So I want to give people who potentially want to work with me a chance to get to know me in different ways, in ways that they probably can't on my main website, because the purpose of my main website is to communicate who am I in my business, what exactly am I offering, what are my prices, what is my expertise, and that shifts a little bit on my social media platforms because, of course, I'm a great web designer, but I also want to tell them a little bit more about who I am, where I'm in the world, what I care about, and that will then give them a chance to kind of work out what it might be like to work with me, and also what my courses might be like as an experience. Um, Another really important part of my social media strategy is that I don't want to become completely dependent on one platform. And the reason for that is that that would just not be safe for my business, you know? Like if Facebook died tomorrow, which it won't, obviously, but what that would that mean for your business? I think that's a really important question that we should all ask ourselves. And I remember maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, when I set up my first Facebook business page, it was completely different. I had not very many likes, but when I posted a new blog post, I was sure that all the people that had liked my page would see it coming up in their feed. And I now have to spend between maybe $60 and $70 to get all my Facebook likes to actually see my posts, which is a massive difference. And it's just a fact that exposure on Facebook has become a lot more expensive. And then Facebook ads came in, and then we started having groups, and then we started having lives. So any social media platform will always be changing, and you will never fully own the content. So that's really important to remember. I'm a big believer of choosing specific platforms that you want to focus on and kind of pour your energy into. But at the same time, I really recommend that we don't become too dependent on them. So when I kind of saw these things changing on Facebook, and then Instagram came up, I was really enthusiastic at the beginning. And Instagram is still my favorite platform. I really, really enjoy engaging there. I have met amazing people on Instagram. I've been invited to podcasts. I have invited lots of people that I have been following on my podcast. So it's been really amazing to kind of get to know people, to network, and find clients as well. But now that Instagram has been bought by Facebook, I can see things changing as well. So I have seen a really sharp drop in engagement and things like comments and likes last year and this year as well. And that wasn't just me. I'm going to talk about that in more detail later, but it's happened for quite a few people. And so um, at the same time, Instagram advertisement came in. So it really creates this incentive for business owners to spend money on ads. And yeah, that's just something to think about, I think, as you build your social media strategy. By the way, you can ask me questions anytime. I forgot to say that again. So if you're here and you're watching live and you've got questions, please keep them coming anytime. And if you see the replay and you have questions, then please come to the Facebook group and ask them there. I would love to help you out, and then everyone else can see as well. That would be great. Cool. So how have my social media goals changed? When I was starting out a little bit more than 2 years ago, I had already been blogging for more than 10 years. So I had a good social media following, but I was never in any way specific about it. You know, I wasn't linking people in the right direction, and I wasn't really thinking about the kind of people that I wanted to attract into my audience. So I've become a lot clearer on that. And then what has also been made a big difference for me, and I would also like to ask you that question, is how much do you actually have in capacity? How many people would you actually want to bring into your business? Because if you're offering a one-on-one service that that relies on you selling your time, you only have so much time that you can sell. So when I was starting out and I didn't have the online courses yet that I now have, my goal wasn't actually to get 10K followers, because I knew that I could probably be fully booked with like 5,000 followers, for example. So that is a big difference. Now that I run online courses and I share more content on my blog posts, and I run the summer school, for example, I would love as much exposure as I can possibly have, because I believe in the work that I do. I really want to share the courses. I want everyone to learn how to build a great online platform. And it's not so much about me booking my time out anymore, although it is, and I still work with people one-on-one. And I offer 25% off, by the way, for July and August bookings. So if you've been wanting to work with me, that would be a really great chance now. But yeah, things have shifted in a way. So I've become more ambitious, and I wanted to grow my following beyond a number that would kind of cover the amount of time that I can sell out of my day. And then And then I think the other thing to remember is that you don't just want to get people on your site and to sign up with your social media strategy. It can also be a great way to let people who've already been referred to you know more about you. So what I mean by that is I can have a certain number of Instagram followers and they might feedback to my website and some of them will sign up, and that's amazing. Let me just double check that I'm still live because I'm not hearing very much back from you guys. So let me see that that still works. Yeah, looks like it. That's awesome. So I'm not hearing very much. Okay, great. Okay, cool. I'm still here. Awesome. But I can see there's a slight delay. So yeah, sorry about that, guys. Yay. Thank you, Eleanor. That's very kind. So coming back, where was I? So that has really changed. So there's a certain number of people that you want to convert over and you want to have them come from Twitter or Instagram or Facebook to your website. Some of them will sign up. But there will also be people who've already been recommended to you. So maybe they heard from a friend that has worked with you, they check out their website and like, yeah, that person's kind of sounds cool, but let me see what they're doing on social media. So they're coming through another way, if that makes sense. In this case, your social media presence is more of a way of really establishing yourself as an expert and having that social proof that you want to have. So I know for myself that sometimes before I decide to work with someone, I will want to see, you know, have they been established in their business for a while? You know, what kind of feedback are they getting from other people? Elena just asked, my question is, how do you set your social media strategy? Yeah, that's a really good question and a big one. So I think all of this to say, I would really encourage you to sit down and make a list of priorities and goals that you have in your social media strategy. So Elena, in your case, for example, I could imagine that something like, I want to fill my group program and I want to establish myself as an expert. So, you know, even for people who might just check me out and they're not ready to sign up, I want to have a strong presence and really come across as professional and knowledgeable so that these people sign up and eventually maybe join my program next year or the year after. So it's about building community, establishing yourself as an expert, filling your group programs, building a newsletter list. So I would write this down as a list and then also prioritize this in different ways. So, you know, really think about what's most important to you right now. And that might not actually be having a following that is as big as possible. It might just be networking and getting to know other people in your industry so that you can have guest blog posts, or you can be on podcast, or you can see what everyone else is doing and kind of get inspired by people that are doing something that you would like to do in the future. And then also mapping out the different ways that people might want to engage with your content. So I kind of like to draw diagrams almost where I'm like, okay, so the center of my business universe is my website. And from that place, I have my different social media channels linking into different directions. But then I also have the different, you know, social media channels that are linking back to my website. So it's kind of this like two-way street. And we really have to think about the flow and the user experience that we want to create. The next thing that I really would love to talk about is choosing the right platforms for your business. And that really ties in like the flow and in which directions people can go. So the platforms that I'm personally using are Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest. Have I forgotten something? I think, oh yeah, Twitter. Did I say Twitter? I think it's 5 in total, yeah. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Gosh, I have to check my website out. What is wrong with me? But you see what I mean. So I have made a conscious decision in the beginning of my business to not be on other platforms like Periscope or Snapchat. What else is there? Yeah, it's 5. It's YouTube, Pinterest, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And I think the two most important ones for me are Instagram and Facebook. Instagram is the one that I actually really enjoy the most, where I get the most engagement, where I feel most inspired and nurtured. And Facebook is the one that I know is the most important for my business because it is where most of my clients come from. And we'll talk about group engagement in a minute as well. So from a time point of view, I'm also engaging the most in Instagram and Facebook. These are really my priorities. I'm doing a course with Melissa Griffin this summer on Pinterest, which is really interesting. And I can see how a lot of traffic can come from Pinterest and how it's a really undervalued platform right now, almost, because it works a little bit like Google, like a search platform. And there is a lot of opportunity, I think, in working with hashtags on there and bringing people to your main site. I've had Pinterest for about 2 years, but I'm really just now getting into the different strategies. So I will share that as soon as I get the hang of it myself. So have a think for yourself, which kind of platforms are you really actually enjoying? Where do you get the most inspiration for your business, and where do you feel you're wasting time? So I am on Twitter, for example, but I have an automation that means that everything that I'm posting on Instagram as an image goes straight to my Twitter account. So there's movement, and like I'm sharing stuff, and I'm also in there like maybe 2 or 3 times a week, but it's not a daily platform that I use all the time, because I find it quite fast paced and it's not really visual. And yeah, so it's just not personally my thing. I really much prefer spending time on Instagram. So I would really recommend to sit down and think about A, what you're enjoying, and B, then also where are your dream clients. So that's just as important, of course. And in terms of like how many platforms to choose, I would recommend to, in the beginning, narrow down to 3 or 4. I have 5 now, but that's a conscious choice, and I didn't have 5 when I was just starting out. So I'm on YouTube now as well and have videos there, and the replays are on there, some of which are public. So that's another platform where I spend time. But you really don't have to be everywhere. And I think it's also important that remember that if you have a presence everywhere that isn't great and it's not branded, and there's nothing happening on there, that will kind of damage your reputation more. So this is also kind of tying into what I said about the user flow in different directions. If, for example, you have a Pinterest board that you really just use privately, there's not much engagement on there, you just have a couple of boards on like wedding dresses or houses that you like, completely unrelated to your business, then it's not a good idea to have your Pinterest link on your main website, because people will check that out and see like, that doesn't look like a related business account to me. Like, what is this about? And so obviously that brings questions up about like, how private do you want to be, and how much do you want to share about yourself? And I think that really depends on yourself as a person, the kind of people that you want to work with, and then also the industry that you're in. And I think that the shift towards showing more of ourselves and sometimes also being vulnerable is really political and really amazing in some ways. And I think this idea that in order to be professional, we cannot be emotional or open or like enthusiastic about something is becoming more and more outdated. And I think that is really beautiful. But at the same time, I would really encourage you to sit down again and think about like, what does it mean to be professional in your industry and for your business specifically, and like how can you embody that on your different social media channels. I'm just going to check for a question that I've just heard popping up. You sound great, huh? Thank you. I don't know who you are, but that's very kind to say. Thank you so much. So we talked about choosing the right platform, developing an overall strategy, and then I want to talk about like so when you've sat down and you've defined your overall strategy and you've chosen the different platforms you want to be on, what are you going to do next? And there's 3 really important steps that I would like you to take. So number 1 would be that you check all your links. So I see a lot of people just not linking the different social media platforms up properly. I would recommend that you have your main website on all your different social media channels, and that you also see if you can optimize the link space when you can have only 1 link. And I will show you what that means in practice by sharing my screen with you. Give me 1 second. So I'm just going to open my Instagram account, which some of you might know. There's another question. I heard it's good to have a Facebook account to save the name so it's not misused. Do you agree? Yeah, it really depends. I think if you have a business name that could potentially be used and then you can't have the business page anymore, then yes, go ahead and just save that for yourself. But you don't have to link it up yet. If you haven't had a chance to work on your branding yet, and if there's no engagement, you don't have many likes, you can just keep it private for yourself and build it up for now. So that would be, I recommend that. It's actually a really good idea. Cool, so we're looking at my Instagram account now. I'm just gonna share my screen with you. Let me know that that works. So you should see my Instagram account now. Awesome. So there's another question. Thanks. Yeah, you're welcome. This is my Instagram account. And as you can see here, Instagram allows for just one link. Same for Facebook most of the time, and same for Twitter as well. And so to make the most use of this, I'm using a free tool called Linktree. And if you open that, it doesn't look like much right now, but the main thing is that Instagram is a mobile-based platform. So this actually looks really great and easily clickable on any kind of mobile. So the first thing that I want people to look at, of course, is signing up for my free summer school, which you're in now. And then I'm advertising free and premium courses I have. This leads people to my main website for web design and online marketing. This is my podcast, and this is my secondary business to which this podcast belongs. So sign up for Linktree. It's free, and then you get the chance to set the same structure up. And it's kind of initially intended for Instagram, but I'm using it on Twitter as well. So if I'm logged in, I'm going to show you what that looks like. If I open my profile here, I am using the same link here. You can see that as well. So if people come across my profile on Twitter and they want to find out more, they get to see that Linktree profile here as well. I think that's really important. So I would recommend map your different channels out and then go into them and check that you have all the right links. Everything should at the very least, link back to your website. And if you have several things that you want to draw attention to, for example, your main website, but also an opt-in page and also your latest podcast or your latest article, then use Linktree for that. The second thing I would like you to check from all your platforms is that you have consistent branding. So Twitter for me is not a great example. Actually, I really need to change this header here. But if you look at my Facebook page, for example, it has exactly the same branding as my group and as my website as well. So I've created this header here in Canva, and the training that we did last week, if you haven't seen that yet, that's really great. It explains exactly how you can create this kind of header in Canva, which is also a free tool. So yeah, check that your branding is consistent, and that applies to both the headers and the headshots that you're using here. Check that the links are connected, and then check that you have consistent biographies. So as you can see here, the first thing I'm letting people know is that I'm a web designer and online marketing consultant. I also work with plants, I am a podcaster and writer, and I have free courses, magic and podcast resources here. So I run 2 different businesses, and I've decided to have one Instagram account for both of these, which might be different for you. But basically what I'm saying is please check that you have a consistent biography across the different channels so that people know exactly what you're doing and what you're all about. That's going to be massively helpful for you. Okay, so I'm coming back on camera. Hi. To talk to you about the next point, which is working with hashtags. That's also really important. So there's a couple of things that I see people do that isn't really helpful, and I don't want to say mistakes, but that's kind of what I'm saying. And my intention really is not to call you out, but just to save you some time and increase the engagement that you're getting. So the first thing to remember is that your content has to be public if you want to use hashtags efficiently. So for example, if you have an Instagram account that you're keeping private, then there's not much use in using these hashtags. You're kind of just cluttering your feed, and your followers have extra stuff to kind of go through, even though you're not necessarily finding new people that will follow you. And that is mainly the main goal with hashtags. So if you're using something like herbalism, for example, because that's what you do and what you're offering, then you want to find other people who are searching that hashtag and come across your work and are like, oh, this sounds great. I want to learn more about what this person is offering. And then the next thing is I often see people use extremely popular hashtags. So herbalism actually is a really great example. I'm sure that will have maybe like at least 500,000 hits on Instagram. And so it's just very unlikely for me personally with my 5K account to get a lot of attention through that hashtags. And that is because if you open a hashtag in Instagram, actually let's do that together. I really want to show you how this works in practice. Da, 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 da. So if I search herbalism, I get on my Instagram, oh, it's just 150,000, but I also get this really long list here of other hashtags that I could be using. And so the thing is, if I click on herbalism, I will have the top 9 posts here. So these are the most popular posts under that hashtag. And that is because they have the most likes and the most comments and engagement. And they might also have, they might be coming from the biggest accounts. And then underneath here, I have the section that is the most recent. So this will be chronological. And so this one at the top here, these are things that people have literally just posted. So if I use, say if I share a new recipe that I just came up with and I use the word herbalism as a hashtag, I will not get into the top 9 posts here, just because my account isn't big enough for that. And also here under most recent, I will move down super quick because it's such a well-used hashtag. So, you know, within an hour or two, there will be hundreds more under the hashtag, and I would just move down. So this is, yeah, one of the key mistakes that I see people make. And what I would recommend instead is that you take some time to research the hashtags that really make sense to use in your business. And they should have between 2 and 30,000 hits. So these numbers are a little bit flexible. But remember that your goal with that is that it's a popular hashtag that has a lot of traffic, so that, you know, there's a solid number of people who might come across your account and then start following you. But at the same time, it's not so many that you would very easily get lost. And what the exact numbers for you are really depends on how big your account already is. So say if you just have 10 followers and you're aiming for a hashtag that has 10,000 hits, it might still be quite hard to get up there. And then it also depends on the platform that you're using. So it might be different for Instagram, for example, than it is on Twitter. So really feel into that a little bit. And then the other thing that I would recommend you think about is not just to share the hashtags that you like to use or that you enjoy in your business, but to think about, you know, what is your audience actually looking for. So in my case, for example, it would make sense to use, you know, the most obvious option would be to use the hashtag web design, but that's not actually what my clients are using at all, because they, you know, if they were sharing stuff about web design, they wouldn't want to hire me, if that makes sense. So when I share about work stuff on Instagram, I tend to use other hashtags like small business owner or B School class of 2017, or do-it-yourself design, something like that. Does that make sense? Like, do ask me questions anytime if I'm talking too fast or it's confusing. So there's different ways of researching hashtags. Number one would be literally to take your Instagram account, if that's the platform that you want to use, and then type something really obvious at the top. So say you're a health coach, put health coaching at the top, and then see through the list here that comes up with related hashtags, and then make some notes about the ones that you feel are making sense for your business and they are within reach for exposure for you. And then the other thing you can try is a tool called Webstar, which I will show you in a second after checking this comment out. Yes, that makes sense. Awesome. I'm glad. It's always nice to make sense, isn't it? Okay, let me share my screen with you again. My computer is getting so hot because so many things are happening at the same time. Okay, so the address is webstar.me. And as an example, I have typed in plant magic into the search bar at the top. And so now what it gives me, and this is a free tool, by the way, is here are the main accounts that are using this hashtag the main public accounts. And then here it gives me a list of related hashtags. So if you're finding it too fiddly on your phone and you want to work on your computer, then Webstar can be really great for that. So this would be the main one. It tells me how many hits this has. And then just writing this, spelling it slightly differently, kind of lowers it instantly. So it's not an ideal example, but that could be something that I would be looking at if I was researching more hashtags for Instagram. Cool. Another thing to think about is shadow banning is something that I want to touch on just very briefly, because it's something that happened more recently on Instagram. So if you have a business account on Instagram and you're using an automation tool that posts automatically for you or that likes things automatically for you, then it might be that your account is flagged up as an account that is, at risk for shadow banning. And then if you use a very popular hashtag like web design, for example, your post won't show up in the feed anymore. So you're still engaging with your audience and they will see your post, but you're not going to come up in the search bar, which is a real shame. So shadow banning is something that's quite new, and I just wanted to mention it and encourage you to do your own research for your own industry and also to see how that changes over time this year, because yeah, as I said, it's just something that is quite new, and I think it really highlights the fact that personal engagement and actually really being present yourself is still what is most important on social media, even if there are great tools that can help you save time and optimize things a little bit, which we're also going to talk about in a minute. Cool, so let me see if there's any questions so far on this. Does Webster work for Twitter hashtags too? No, I don't think it does, but if you Google research Twitter hashtags, you probably will see similar platforms that work for that as well. Do you know if the IFTTT recipes flag you for shadow banning? That's a really good question. I don't think they would on Instagram, because what puts you at risk on Instagram is that you are automating your own posting, and the IFTTT recipe that I use is the other way around. So it is coming, anything that's posted on Instagram would go to Twitter, not the other way around. So I don't think that it does, but it might well be in the future. So I don't want to give you a firm no. That might change, and I can't know for sure. I also really don't think that anyone knows this for sure right now. I've researched a little bit around what other online marketers are doing and like what social media strategists are doing. And it seems that people are doing a lot of research right now, but Instagram has not not published an official update to their policy. So they've always said that they are not really tolerating people automatically posting or automating any engagement with their platform, but I think they haven't released anything specific related to shadow banning. So yeah, that remains to be seen. So the next thing I would like to talk about is automating things. And before I want to share the tools that I'm using myself, I wanted to share a little bit more about what my approach to automation on social media is. So when I was first starting out, I was more open to the idea of automating, because I thought, I really wanted to grow super fast, and I wanted to have that social proof for potential clients checking me out to see yeah, I've been doing this for a while and I have grown my following. And that has really shifted for me. And so now it has become more important for me that people really feel my presence on the different channels that I'm using. And I've also seen a shift in myself. So when I was starting out in my business and I started kind of joining all these different Facebook groups, I initially didn't care so much, for example, if someone was automating their group posts. So what some group owners do in larger groups is that they have different days. So for example, each Monday there will be a sharing thread. Each Tuesday there will be a post on do you have a question about this or that? And then each Wednesday there will be a prompt to share your latest blog post, for example. And that can work, that's okay. But I noticed the more selective I am with groups, the more I really appreciate people coming in personally and mixing things up and listening into what their communities are actually saying and talking about and what they need help with. And so these weekly sharing threads can still be really valuable. But you can also see if someone has automated this, it will say buffer at the top, and it will automatically, the person or maybe the person's VA will have scheduled for the month ahead or the week ahead. And so there isn't really personal engagement. And as I said, it's a really personal decision. You really have to be mindful about how much time you want to spend on social media. But you also want to think about how present do you want to really be with yourself. And there's different ways of doing that. The other thing that I think is interesting is we tend to sometimes really overestimate how much attention people are paying. So on my private Facebook page, for example, I rarely ever share my own business blog posts, because I think, these are my private friends and they don't necessarily need to know about this. But the truth is I have more than I would say more than 500 business contacts on my private Facebook page, just from people who've ever added me over time from Facebook groups. So yeah, actually they do want to probably maybe sometimes see some of my blog posts, and they might be relevant and interesting to them. And also, and that is true for almost any platform, the feeds are not chronologically anymore. That means that if I post something to the top, only a fraction of the people that are following my work will actually see it. And so automation can be really valuable in bringing older content back up as well. So that's something that I have on my own to-do list actually, is to bring some more of my blog posts to Twitter automatically, because as I said, I don't really enjoy being on there very much. But I think that my blog posts are useful to people on Twitter, and my following there, which is almost 4,000. So I want to sit down next week and use Buffer, which I will also show you in a minute, to automatically schedule older blog posts that I really think are still relevant to come up in my Twitter feed. Yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts and feelings about mindfulness. I think automation can have real benefit if it means that you have more time to spend in your business to be useful, of value and of service to people. If it means you can write more blog posts and you can engage more, then that's absolutely amazing. If it means you're feeling disconnected with your own audience and you're not actually being present anymore, then of course that is a problem. Let me check a problem. What platform do you use to bring blog posts to Twitter? Buffer, did you say? Yeah, I said Buffer. I will show you these in 1 second. So let me share my screen with you to show you how Buffer works. Okay. Oh dear, sorry, that was the wrong tab to share. Let me go back. That's what happens when you have too many things open. Okay, cool. So yeah, there's two tools that I'm recommending for scheduling. One is Buffer and the other one is Hootsuite. And I just wanted to show you Buffer for now because it's the one that I'm most familiar with. So there's a free account and a paid one as well, which gives you more options in terms of scheduling and analytics. But basically, this is the dashboard that you see in the backend here. And so I currently have my Twitter account connected. If I go to Facebook, it would give me the option here to connect my profile, my page, or my group, or everything at once. And so again, I think there's limitations with the free account on how many different channels you can connect. But I could connect my Facebook page here, and then I would post to that as well. And so this didn't used to have Instagram, it does now. And again, it raises the question of shadow banning and potential risk there. But if I have my accounts connected and I can add some more here, then I could kind of go to my website and I could choose any blog post that I've written in the past, like this one here. I would take the URL, copy it over, and then paste it in here. And what's great about Buffer is it automatically shortens your link. And because you only have 140 signs on Twitter, that really saves you some time. So I could now go ahead and write a little introduction to this blog post here. And then I can also use some hashtags, which of course also makes lots of sense. So when I'm ready to post this, I will just confirm here. I can also manually add another image. So some people have issues with the preview that they're getting. So I'm using Divi. This is my featured image on the blog post here. So that's something to check out. If it doesn't display the right image for you, check with your theme, post in a group, let us know. We can look into that together. But also, if you want a quick fix, then you can update the image for the preview here. And then when you're ready to share, you would say add to queue, and it automatically adds into your queue. I will show you the queue in a second, but I'm just going to check on. Yay, I made it. Hi, Lisa. That's wonderful. I'm so glad you're here too. Will Buffer show the blog image in the link in Twitter? Yes, it does. Hootsuite does not show the post image in preview. Actually, both of these platforms should show them. And if they're not doing that, then there might be something wrong with the setup of your Hootsuite account. But whatever you do, when you share a blog post on Twitter, it should really display the preview image for you. So do check that out. And if you have checked it out and you're still not sure why it doesn't work, then feel free to post in a Facebook group and we'll look at it together. Cool, so you've queued your first content here. And then the next step, or the first step, depending on how organized you are, is you go into your schedule. So I now have 2 posting times set up. I'm going to post Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, not on weekends. and I will post twice every weekday at these 2 times. And in your account settings, you can also schedule, you can set your time zone, so this will make sense. And so anytime I put something in my content queue here, it will come out twice a day. So of course, I would right now need 10 different posts to fill my whole week up. And if I wanted to fill the whole month up, then I would have to have even more content. And you can, of course, if you wanted to, you can loop things, so you can bring them back up. And that might actually be really useful, because in the analytics here, you can see, did I actually post this? Hang on, that might be from last year. Anyway, so here it shows me how many people have clicked, how many people have retweeted this, and how much potential in terms of exposure did this have at the time. And so I can go, and once I've been using this tool for a month or so, I can go back in and see like how popular have the different posts been, how much exposure have they actually had, and if it makes sense for me, I could rebuffer them, and then they will go back into the queue. And so if you feel this is too much for you, you can of course also say like, I'm only posting on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and only once a day is enough for me. And so that might kind of take the pressure off you a little bit. But yeah, I would really recommend to think about that and think about on what platforms you want to do this. The other automation tool that I wanted to share is Linktree. We already talked about that, so that's really great for your links if you have only one link that you can place here. So as a reminder for those that have just joined us, Linktree is a free tool, and it links different things under one link. So on platforms like Instagram and Twitter, when you can use only one link, it gives you this beautiful overview here, and it's free, so that's really amazing. We check on the question, do you use old blog posts in your schedule? Sometimes I do, yeah, as I said. So I really want to sit down and look into my older blog posts again and see if they need any updating. And then I will and have scheduled them again. But as I said, it's really important that you also update them, which might be more relevant to my industry. So I, for example, have an older blog post on where to host your online platform, which is where to host your online course, which is really popular. I still get traffic on that blog post every day, even though it's 1.5 years old. And most of the links are still totally fine, and the message is also still the same. But I really want to update it and talk a little bit more about Teachable, which is what I'm using now. So do go and install Google Analytics in your WordPress platform, and make sure that you're checking back on that every now and then to see like what content has been the most valuable for people, and what could you share again, and what could you edit to make it more engaging or more up to date. Cool. So another thing I wanted to show you is IFTTT, and I've mentioned before that I have an automation with IFTTT. That means that whenever I'm posting something on Instagram, it goes straight to my Twitter account. And if you log in, this is the overview that you're seeing. So it's ifttt.com. I'm already logged in now, and you can see some recommendations for you. So these are different recipes that I could use. I can see how many people are using them here. And this shows me like what it's working with. But if you have a specific recipe in mind, I think they're now called applets. That's funny, that must have changed. So this is currently off, but this would be one. If any new photo by Sarah Magdalene Love is posted, then upload the photo to Daydreaming Wolves. So this is also posting any Instagram post to my Daydreaming Wolves Facebook page. And if I wanted to create a new recipe, it's very simple. It says if this, then that. So if this, I would click Instagram and search that here. If Instagram, if there's a new photo by me, then that. And here I would say Twitter. And then I would say post a tweet with an image. So this is really important, because if you just post a tweet, it just comes out as a link and it looks pretty boring. So you want to say post a tweet with an image. And then the caption will usually be the caption that you've had on Instagram. Or if you feel that doesn't make sense for you, it could also say something like, come over to my Instagram account and follow me there. And then you can say, as a final step, create the action, and then you would finish it. So you might want to not want to receive notifications anytime you use this because that's overwhelming, but you will get a notification if this ever stops working. So I very often, for example, silly me, have forgotten that when I updated my Facebook login, I would need to update my recipe here as well. So that's something really important to remember. Cool. Do we have any more questions about automation so far? Otherwise, I would be moving on to engaging in groups. Just gonna give you guys a minute again and stop sharing my screen and come back. Hi. um, cool. Do you have any questions on automations? Remember, if you're watching the replay or the questions come later, that's no problem at all. You can also always post in the Facebook group, and I'm happy to have you there. Cool. So I want to talk about engaging with groups a little bit. Again, has really shifted for me over time. When I was first starting out, I received so many invites. I feel like 2 years ago, everyone started having business Facebook groups, and some of them seemed quite generic. So I still see a lot of Facebook groups just saying something like the female entrepreneur mastermind, and like some of them are really great. But generally, my personal feeling is that some of them are very generic and there's different vibes, and I really want to be very selective with, where I'm spending my attention and energy and my time. So, um, hey, I lost you there for a second. Oh my god, that was really scary. Sorry about that. Could someone let me know that I'm back on? And if this hasn't worked, then I will come live in the Facebook group and finish what I'm going to say there. But we're pretty close to the end anyway, so please let me know if I'm back on. You're back on now. Yes, thank you so much. What a relief. Cool. Okay, so back to talking about Facebook groups. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much. So yeah, so in the beginning, I was really excited about my blog post that I had just written. I was like, yeah, I want everyone to see it. I wanted to share it in as many places as possible. But at the same time, I didn't necessarily have the time to really engage with all of these groups and to really contribute there in a way that was meaningful. And I'm a bit ashamed of that. I mean, no one knows and probably no one remembers. Um, but I've learned a bit, and so now it's really important for me to be more selective and to really be helpful in the groups that I'm showing up in. So here's a couple of tips on how I'm selecting the groups that I'm actually engaging with. I think currently I have about 5 to 6 that I am active in. One of them is the Big B School group. And then there's a couple more, and I might share some of them in my own Facebook group. And so I try to not engage on Facebook all day, every day. Whenever I get a notification and go back into the group and be like, yeah, actually, this is how I feel about that, or this is how I feel about that. So every day at 10 a.m., I spend about an hour going through my emails and engaging on social media. So I schedule my post, I engage on Instagram, I post something new, I post on the different groups, and I answer all my emails, and then I go into my client work at 11 or into content creation or whatever I'm doing that day. So that's one tip in terms of being mindful. The other tip I have is to really think about the vibe that the different groups have. So are they very heavy on promo? Are the people in there kind of engaging and relating to the things that you care about? How do they handle promos? Is that allowed or not? Is there a lot of spam in the group? And then leave anything that isn't serving you that isn't worth your time. And also think about the notifications that you want to receive. So I'm still in a bunch of groups that I'm not necessarily in every day, but I will then turn off the notifications so that I'm not being spammed all the time. Just going to check on your bag. Yay, it's great. Okay, awesome. That's fantastic. And then my next tip is to keep a list of the groups that you want to engage with in whatever way works best for you. So if you feel like you maybe have more capacity than 5 groups, then make an Excel sheet or any kind of document that works for you to have a specific list and keep specific times in your week that you want to engage with these groups. In terms of finding groups that might work for you, depending on your niche, there's a new functionality on Facebook where if you have a group that is related to another one, you can link the two. So check the groups that you really enjoy out to see if they're recommending any other ones. And then use the search bar at the top as well. So if you're a health coach, for example, this is kind of my standard example, sorry about that. But if you were a health coach, you could search for health coaching in the groups, and it will probably come up with a lot of business-related health coaching groups, but it might not be a group that the people that you actually want to work with are in. So what might make more sense if you are a health coach specializing in veganism, for example, is to see what vegan groups are there, or what vegan groups for people with specific health conditions are there, and then to really kind of seek these out and engage with these more. Another tip that I have is that it's really important to remember that many more people are reading your comment than are actually engaging in any kind of thread. So I know you guys are really amazing people and you're super kind. I actually know some of you who are live here, so you are amazing, and I think you would never be rude. I just don't have rude people in my audience, which is amazing. But I just sometimes see things that feel really off, where people are just seem to be frustrated or getting angry really easily or having a hard time sharing their point of view in a more confrontational situation in a way that is kind and compassionate. And I think it's really important to remember that if you're not in a good mood and you don't feel like you have something to give that day, it's totally okay to log off social media and just not be present that day. That's better than coming across as snappy. Another really important tip that I have is once you start engaging with groups more, you will definitely have more people check out your private Facebook profile, because that's where your posts are coming from. And so it's really important that you link your professional business page on Facebook or your website app. So if you look at my private profile on Facebook, it says, I make awesome websites and I like small dogs. Please send me a message before you add me, because I've had hundreds of business-related people kind of adding me without making any kind of contact, which I didn't always like. And then it links to my Facebook page. So if someone has seen me make a comment that they found helpful in a group, they might go and check my profile out and see what I'm all about. They will see that I'm running a web design business, and then they might check out my website. And so connect your business page, make sure people know in your short bio what it is that you're doing, and also keep the short bio and your business link public so that the people that are not your friends can see those as well. So again, that's something I see all the time of people really engaging and really bringing so much value to Facebook groups, but not actually making their business connection public so people can see them. How do you get answered everything in 1 hour? Any tips? Ooh. Yeah, that's a really good question. So I have a little timer on my desk that I use sometimes, and I'm just making sure that I'm focusing on this one task, and I batch things. So that's something that I haven't actually spoken about very much yet, but batching is something that's really important for me to stay consistent and not waste time on social media, but everything, like really in every area of my business. So I use this 1 hour a day to try and get through my emails and to try and get through the business-related notifications I have on my different social media platforms. And I just do nothing else. And yeah, so I think for me, it's also about knowing how your energy is in different times of the day. I'm absolutely not a morning person, and this social media engagement is actually something that I really enjoy doing in the morning. I think if that was the last thing I did at night after, when I'm already tired and hungry and ready for dinner, that would just not work for me, and it might be different for everyone. So I think, like, really think about the time of the day that you want to spend on this. Make sure you're not having any distractions, and make sure that you have a specific time frame that you figured out. And if you're not getting as much done as you would like in that hour, then think about, why are you getting so many emails, and can you maybe turn off some of the notifications that you're working through in that hour, so that you can feel like, your engagement for the day is complete at 11, if that's what you want to do. Yeah, these are my tips. I hope that's helpful. The other thing I would like to share is that engagement in groups is also so much about networking. It really isn't just about finding your clients, because there's so many indirect ways of really kind of increasing your audience and finding new people, and also tuning into what people are struggling with. So I have had many chances or opportunities for guest blog posts or interviews in podcasts, or like promos or shared webinars that I've done with other people, because I got to know them through Facebook groups. And getting to know them doesn't just mean like commenting that one time on their post. With some people, we've been in the same kind of intimate group with less than 3,000 people for like a couple of months. We have like each other's posts, and then on the promo days, I've said like, oh, I really appreciated your latest blog post, or like that interview was great. And so we slowly over time got to know each other, and we had a chance to establish trust and really understand if we're speaking to the same audience and if working together would be right for us. So yeah, really kind of coming from a place of generosity within the boundaries that feel good for you in terms of time, so you're not resentful and it doesn't feel draining, but you're just feeling like you're being generous and it is being received, and there's a two-way interaction there. I think that can be really beautiful. There's one more thing that I wanted to share in terms of groups. Yeah, so the other thing that I really recommend you do as you engage with groups, especially in the beginning of your business, if you're thinking about the kind of packages or courses or digital products that you want to offer, is to really listen and tune into what people are struggling with. So this whole session right now, the social media webinar, is really only happening because so many people that have joined my Facebook group have asked questions about social media. And when I initially created and set up the Do-It-Yourself Summer School, I was just planning a session on branding, then one on opt-in, and one on WordPress, and one on Teachable and online courses. And I thought that was great, and I just didn't think that people might want a webinar on social media as well. So it's really coming from that engagement, and I can tell you that about 80% of my blog posts on my website are direct responses to the things that people have asked in group, because since we are experts in the thing that we have started a business around, it is so easy for us to not understand what people are struggling with or what they're wondering about. It's easy to kind of forget that beginner's mind. And so that's one of the main things really for me in engaging with groups, is understanding what people want to know from me. And so sometimes I will write a blog post specifically as a response, and I will write it on the same day and then post and say like, hey, thank you so much for asking that question. That was really useful for me, and here's my response, which is more than I could have said in a comment, and I'm also linking you to resources that I found useful. And yeah, I mean, that's so valuable for people as well. Like, imagine you went into a group and you asked a question that you have been thinking about for a week or so, and it's really blocking you in a way, and then someone comes in and is like, yeah, actually that's my jam, and here's my response. I've written a blog post for you. So yeah, that's just really great. Guys, we're nearing the hour. There's so much more to say, but I just want to respect your time, and I'm so glad so many of you have shown up live. And yeah, we talked about different things like automation, engaging with groups, working with hashtags, which platforms to use. If you have feelings about branding is a really important part of social media as well, then please go back into the webinar we did last week. That would be great. Another little plug for me, I still have openings for one-on-one work for web design and tech support in August, and I'm offering 25% off for summer bookings that are coming in July for August. So if that's you, then I would love to hear from you. Just hit reply on any email that you received from me, or send me a message on Facebook. If you've got any more questions, like, I'm totally still here. I'm so up for answering them, and I'm also happy to come back into the group and answer them there. So I'm just going to check back to see if there's any questions. Will you speak on about engaging in my own group? Yeah, of course. How much time and energy? So my own group is actually the one that I check throughout the day more often. You will see me engaging them more. If I get notifications from other groups, I tend to just go back into that once a day in the morning at 10. But with my own group, I would say I spend about 10 to 15 minutes a day in it. Maybe less, actually. Yeah, maybe less. It really depends also on what's going on. Like right now, I'm spending more time in it. I have Facebook Lives every now and then, which is really great. So that was actually interesting as well. Until I started the summer school, the engagement in my group wasn't very high. I really kind of loved the vibe of my group, and people seemed to feel confident to share questions every now and then. I was sharing resources in my own blog post, and that got some engagement. Um, with the summer school, the group has really grown to almost 500 people now. And because I'm also running these challenges with, like I did last week, for example, where we shared what we had done in Canva, I can see that engagement has really grown so much. And I would really love you guys also to share your own work. I know that some of us either feel shy or you might not really be sure if it's okay to kind of promote your own work. But yeah, it totally is. Please do share what you're currently working on. I would really appreciate that. Hey. So yeah, it is costing me more time now, but I find it really valuable, and especially the live feeds. When I have posted blog posts in the past, I maybe got like a handful of likes, but now that I'm doing Facebook Live, some of them have, I think, nearing 100 views. So that's a lot more than I would have gotten with blog posts. So I think that was really like worth my time. Cool. Do you guys have any other questions? Thank you so much again for coming. I really, really enjoyed this. It's nice to kind of summarize the things that I like and care about, and it's lovely to hear your questions and see you live. Cool, as I said, so if you have another question, please come into the group and I will answer it there. Bye.